Similar to Essex and Sussex, Wessex was named for the West Saxons, yet such a common name would eventually become the greatest in Anglo-Saxon England. Most people know Wessex today as a region in England, but long before England was a unified nation, it was filled with little kingdoms. They were created by the Anglo-Saxons, a group of Germanic tribes that included the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. There were 7 major kingdoms, and they all struggled with each other for power. Wessex was not one of the most powerful kingdoms early on, but as others rose and fell, Wessex steadily grew and expanded. They had strong leaders and supported lawmaking and education, encouraging historians to record what was happening and creating written works that still impact today's world. Although Wessex conquered the kingdoms around them, they soon had to fight other, more powerful forces, the Vikings. All the remaining Anglo-Saxon kingdoms fell to the Danish invasion. Wessex was soon the only one left. Just when all hope seemed lost, King Alfred the Great came to the throne and stopped the Vikings in their tracks, even pushing them back and starting England on the path to unification. Wessex quickly became the power center of England. Without it, England and the world would be very different places today. They have an exciting and diverse history, so here are 7 famous things about the Kingdom of Wessex. Number 1. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Most people who are not historians have not heard of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. If they have, they haven't read it. We don't know who wrote this work, but it was written at King Alfred the Great's court. It is one of the significant sources of information about medieval England today. However, that does not mean there aren't difficulties with this text. One of the problems is we don't have the original anymore. Every version of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is a copy. Some even have additions and updates. The various manuscripts also contain differences and contradictions, which makes setting events in order difficult for historians. Despite these difficulties, historians still utilize the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle because it discusses events other documents don't. Another critical document for Anglo-Saxon history is the Ecclesiastical History of the English People by the Venerable Bede. Today, Bede is the father of English history. His work was written around 731 CE. This time frame limits his scope, so events after Bede died were recorded in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle only, giving us many stories about the things Wessex is most famous for. Number 2. Surdic, the first king of Wessex. The stories state Surdic was the first king of Wessex and one of the first Anglo-Saxons to move to England, arriving in 495 CE. He and his 5 ships arrived in modern Hampshire, and they quickly discovered England was occupied. Although the Romans had left the island at the beginning of the century, the Britons were still there. The Britons had lived on the island long before the Romans had arrived. Some historians believe they were connected to the Celts. Nathan Leod was the Briton king Surdic, and his men fought upon arrival, and after about 13 years, the Anglo-Saxons won the war. Historians have several problems with this story, even though it is part of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. First, the archaeological evidence does not support it. Instead, the Jutes were the first people to arrive, and Surdic was unrelated to them. Second, the name Nathan Leod is not a real name. Nate means wet. The name is very similar to Nathan Liga, a nearby territory. While historians think there was a Briton king, his name appears to be lost to history. Finally, historians question whether Surdic was indeed Anglo-Saxon. His name comes from the Britons language, not the Germanic language spoken by the Anglo-Saxons. Historians believe that Surdic was either a Briton who formed an alliance with the Anglo-Saxons or was himself an Anglo-Saxon whose family had immigrated earlier. We may never know for sure, but Surdic was respected enough by Britons and Anglo-Saxons to become the first recorded king of Wessex. Number 3. Inusla. Wessex had many powerful kings, but the first laws we have from this kingdom come from about 694 CE under King Ina. According to Anglo-Saxon history, King Ina ruled from 688 to 726 CE and was one of Surdic's descendants. His predecessor, Caedwalla, left chaos behind him. Ina had to re-establish peace with the southern kingdoms, like Kent, when he took the throne, but tensions remained with Sussex and Essex for several years. When he wasn't fighting to re-establish peace and maintain the throne, Ina was devoted to Christianity. Wessex's first nunneries began during his reign. One started by his sister, Cuthber, and another by a relation named Ekberg. part of restoring order included updating internal laws and practices. Sadly, although Ina worked to restore order, we do not have his original regulations. We have pieces of copies, and later on, Alfred the Great noted which laws he borrowed from Ina for his own law code. We can piece together some of Ina's work, although historians are unsure if we have all of it today. Regardless, we know that Ina was a Christian king, and his remaining laws promoted Christianity. They addressed Christian rites like baptism and gave Christian oaths more weight than non-Christian oaths. He also dealt with civil matters. All freemen had to fence their land to keep their cattle from wandering, and the open farmland they rented from the lords passed to their descendants. Freemen also had to serve in the army per old Anglo-Saxon habits. While his laws did not promote equality between the Anglo-Saxons and Britons in the kingdom, they provided a foundation for others to build on as Wessex grew. Number 4. Ekberg. Ekberg was the king of Wessex from 802 to 839 CE, and he is most famous for ruling during the Battle of Elendun. Mercia opposed Ekberg's claim to the throne. He only received it because Charlemagne and possibly the Pope supported his bid for it in 802 CE. Mercia was the most powerful Anglo-Saxon kingdom at the time, and their attacks on Wessex limited Ekberg's power. Historians believe that for about 20 years, Ekberg had only control over Wessex, not over any of the kingdoms around Wessex. It was a hard time for his kingdom, particularly as Mercia expanded. Then, in 825, Wessex and Mercia met for the Battle of Elendun, one of the most critical battles in Anglo-Saxon history. The two kingdoms fought after Bjornwulf, king of Mercia, attacked Wessex. Wessex emerged victorious. Because of this battle, Mercia's power declined over the southern kingdoms. They switched allegiances to Wessex, allowing it to begin its rise to power. Mercia tried to bring kingdoms like East Anglia back under their control, but Wessex had already grown strong enough to defeat them again. In 829, King Ekberg invaded Mercia. He pushed all the way to London and took over the kingdom. Ekberg even convinced the other Anglo-Saxon kings to submit to his rule, temporarily uniting England. Although historians believe Northumbria was forced to surrender, Ekberg's accomplishments still permanently impacted English history. Sadly, this unification only lasted a year. Mercia regained its independence in 830, and other kingdoms quickly followed suit. Wessex's power was not yet undisputed, but under King Ekberg, they began the path they would follow to unite England and change world history eventually. Number 5. Alfred the Great. Alfred the Great was the first great king in English history and the most famous king of Wessex. He ruled from 871 to 886 CE, although he ruled as the king of the Anglo-Saxons from 886 to 899. But when he was born, no one expected him to become king. He was the fifth and youngest son of King Ethelwulf, so much of Alfred's childhood education focused on reading and writing, in addition to military training. However, the Viking attacks changed everything. The Vikings moved from raiding England to attacking, setting up their own villages, and claiming the land for themselves. Alfred and his 4 brothers agreed the Wessex throne would pass between them in birth order, instead of following the tradition of sons inheriting from their fathers. The goal was to keep an adult on the Wessex throne as long as possible. A child could not be expected to defeat the Vikings. Alfred lost all 4 brothers in the next few years, becoming king in 871. The Vikings soon attacked. Although Alfred was able to pay them off for 5 years of peace, this did not stop the Vikings from attacking. They even drove Alfred off his throne at one point, but he refused to surrender, rallied more troops, and defeated the Vikings in 878. It was a stunning victory that saved England from a complete Viking conquest. Once he had subdued the Vikings, Alfred turned his attention to reforms. Some reforms focused on the army and fortifying villages. Alfred created safe places for raids and repaired or built defensive structures around towns, such as walls and dikes. He also reformed the laws and supported education. The Vikings had inadvertently damaged English education, as learning centers resided in monasteries. With the Vikings targeting monasteries for their wealth during raids, parents did not send their sons for fear they would never see them again. Education declined, as people became more focused on surviving a war than reading. King Alfred valued education and worked to bring it to as many people as possible. He had books translated and encouraged people to learn how to read. Alfred's work went above just defeating the Vikings. He also made Wessex a better place because he cared about his people. Number 6. Improvements to the English Navy. King Alfred the Great did not invent the English Navy. However, his extensive work on it has forever tied the Navy to this great Wessex king. Alfred's reforms extended beyond building walls, rewriting laws, and re-establishing education. He also improved the naval force to defend against the Viking ships. Viking ships were designed to carry raiders across the open sea, along coastlines, and up rivers. Alfred ordered his builders to make about 12 longships. They were about twice as large as the Viking ships and capable of moving in shallow water, although they couldn't navigate rivers easily. They were stable and fast, both of which helped Alfred defend Wessex's coast from future Viking attacks and engage in open sea conflicts. Alfred's work was an essential step in the English Navy's history, and he is remembered today with several boats named in his honor. Number 7. The Unification of England. Although Alfred the Great is the most famous Wessex king, he was not the first king of England. That duty fell to his grandson, King Aethelstan. King Aethelstan came to the throne in 924 as the king of the Anglo-Saxons. He ruled all of England that was not under Viking control, which was called the Danelaw. In 927, Aethelstan became the first king of England, uniting the island under his rule. Of course, uniting the island took time. In 927, Guthfrith of Ivar took over the Viking lands in England, but he was in Ireland then. Before he landed in England, Aethelstan marched north and invaded Northumbria. He took the Viking throne for himself. Guthfrith and Aethelstan fought once Guthfrith arrived, but Aethelstan beat him back, securing his place as the King of England. Soon afterward, he also gained control over Scotland and South Wales. King Aethelstan had his fair share of revolts and civil unrest to put down, but he knew he needed more than just a solid army to secure his power. He added to the administration systems the Anglo-Saxons were already using and created a highly centralized government. Ealdormen controlled shires. Reeves controlled towns or estates. The royal council became increasingly important, especially as its numbers grew. Aethelstan usually remained in Wessex, so the royal council traveled to wherever he was and included many influential people in the kingdom, not just the Ealdormen. Some historians believe Aethelstan's royal councils were predecessors to the modern English Parliament. Aethelstan died in 939, and England separated again. This time, though, future leaders were focused on restoring that unity, shaping England into the united powerhouse it is today. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Wessex, check out our book, Wessex, a captivating guide to an Anglo-Saxon Kingdom of England and its rulers, such as Alfred the Great, Edward the Elder, and Aethelstan. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.